Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be doing a Q&A. So here on YouTube and on Instagram, I asked you guys to send me your questions about me because I've gotten a ton of new subscribers, which I'm so grateful for, and also some more followers on Instagram as well. So I figured this would be a good way for y'all to get to know me. I've never done, like a get to know me Q&A thing on Instagram or over here. We've done a Q&A, me and my husband together, on relationships after having children, but not necessarily like getting to know me kind of thing. So I've got y'all's questions right here, and I'm going to go ahead and start with the basics first, kind of like an overview real quick of me, and then we will get into the questions. And I have my boo-boo bear here with me. He was sitting in this little thing next to me, and he was not liking that. So we're going to start with him in my lap. Oh, boo-boos. I just want to say hello. I want to talk. Oh, okay. Tell him. Say, I'm Knox. I'm 6 months old. I love my mommy the most. Before we get started, y'all, you know the drill. Give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe if you're new, because we would love to have you here. Yeah, tell him. You subscribe to my mommy. Alright y'all, so I'm going to start with the basics first. My name is Jessica, aka soultribemama. This is my channel, of course. I am 34 years old and I have 4 kids. I had my first kid when I was 25, and his name is Georgie. He is 8 years old. Then I have Abel, who is 5 years old. I have Jade, who is 2 years old, and Knox baby, he is 6 months old. I've always wanted babies my whole life. I knew that I wanted to be a mom one day and I wanted to have lots of kids, but I was told early on in my life I could possibly not have them, or I would have a hard time having kids because of issues that I had with my uterus and my ovaries and a whole bunch of junk, pretty much. I was in an abusive relationship for about 7 years before I met my husband. So thankfully I was able to get out of that, and I met my husband. We have been married now for 9 years. I have been diagnosed with chronic depression. I've had ACL surgery on my left knee twice. I was born with scoliosis, and I have bulging discs in my lower spine, and I also have arthritis in my spine and my knees because of all that stuff. I am a lover of animals, but especially horses. I have been riding horses my whole life, and that is my favorite thing to do in the whole world. I almost broke my neck when I fell off of one of my horses when I was about 15 or 16 years old. So that was very scary, but thank you, Jesus, that did not happen to me. I just had a really, really bad concussion, and I was sore for a little while. But because I love to ride horses, I've fallen off many, many times. I've scared my parents too many times to count, and that is the reason why I've had surgeries and have problems and arthritis. But I still love the horses. I still love to ride, and I will probably ride for the rest of my life. I actually rode horses while I was pregnant with my first 2, almost all the way through my pregnancy until I had them. And then with my 3rd and my 4th, it got a little bit harder on my body, and those pregnancies were a little different. So that is one of the reasons why I really didn't ride as much. I quit a lot sooner than I did with my first 2. But I have pictures of me 6-month, 8-month belly, big old belly, pregnant on a horse riding, and I loved it. I actually rode better when I was pregnant than when I'm not pregnant. I don't know why that happens, but it does, and it was awesome. It's been a little while now since I've actually ridden horses, the longest I've ever gone without riding a horse. But 4 kids, don't really have a whole lot of time, but I'm hoping soon I'm gonna find the time and be able to really get out there and make it an intentional thing for me, because we all have our things, right, mamas, that we need to do for ourselves that make us feel good, and that is one of them, and I haven't had it in a long time, and I need it. I want to smell it, I want to feel it, the whole deal. Next thing is, I lived most of my childhood overseas in Argentina and in Ecuador when I was younger. We moved there when I was 3 years old, I think. 3 years old, and we moved back to the States when I was about 12, 13 years old. I lived there for quite a long time, and I loved it. Argentina and Ecuador, I loved both of those. Ecuador, we didn't get to live there as long as we did Argentina. I didn't get to see as much, but it was absolutely gorgeous, and that is where I learned to ride horses, was overseas. So that is another reason why I love it. My father died when I was 20 years old, and so I've missed out on a lot of things, and my dad and I were very close, especially when it came to horses. He was a big part of that, and I have tons of memories. One of them being that I actually went to Germany. I flew to Germany with my dad and a trainer and a couple other people to find a horse, to buy a horse in Germany and ship them home, because I was trying to find a horse that could do a certain level, Grand Prix for me to move up and get to ride in. I wanted to make Young Riders, which is like, Young Riders is kind of like Olympics, but for younger people. I think the cap off was 21 years old, so it was 21 and under. And you would ride all year long to get all these points. You had to be in certain classes. And then if you made it, you would make the team, just like you would have an Olympic team. You made the team for your region, and then you would go and compete in Young Riders, which again is kind of like the Olympics. So it was Young Riders, and we would compete as teams, and then we would also compete as individuals, and it was so much fun. I actually had a mishap while we were there. My horse got hurt, so I didn't get to do it to the fullest, but I still had the best time, and the experience was awesome. I loved it so much. But again, y'all, that just all of those things, I have the best memories with my dad with those times in my life. And so that is another reason why horses are so dear to my heart, because every time I'm around them, I remember memories with him, and I think of him, and I feel him with me, watching me. So another reason why I love it. I homeschooled my last 2 years of high school through Texas Tech because of horses. I was trying to make the Young Riders team. I had actually tore my ACL, whatever that was, my freshman going into my sophomore year. I think it was like the middle of my sophomore year, and had to have surgery and all of that and recover. And as I was recovering, I had to go back to school, and I didn't want to go back to school for one, because I just felt like I'm gonna have to walk around in crutches. It's gonna be so hard. I went to a school that was very big, and it was just not gonna be fun. Number two, I was always missing days because I would go to horse shows and I would have to leave on a Thursday. So I would miss Thursdays and Fridays of school, and the school didn't like that, of course. And I was getting to the point where I was missing too many days. And so I convinced my dad to let me do homeschooling my last 2 years so that I could travel and show all over the country, which I don't recommend at all because it was very hard on me. I kept having to ask for extensions to get homework done and to get quizzes done, and it was not fun. But it was fun in the sense that I got to travel so much for the horse shows, and that was my favorite part, obviously. But trying to find the time and the willpower to actually do the work was very hard. But I got it done. It was all good. I love sharing motherhood and pregnancy, anything pretty much, to any mama or anyone that wants to hear it. I was the first of all of our friends to get pregnant and to get married, and so all of my friends after me that were getting pregnant would ask me all these questions and want to know everything, and I got super passionate about it. I was like excited because I love being pregnant, y'all. I love it. Yes, it comes with the bad times too. There is no perfect pregnancy. We all have moments where we're sad and depressed, or, you know, and you're up and you're down, or you have pain, and all of those things happen to everybody no matter what. But I loved it, and I wanted my friends to have that same experience. I wanted them to enjoy it as much as I did and look forward to all these certain things. So I loved sharing about it, and when my YouTube channel came along and I got pregnant while I was filming my YouTube channel, it was only right that I would share all of that just like I did with my friends, and get to be passionate about it on here and get to share about it and all the things that I love. And yes, of course, we've got to talk about the bad things too, and the TMI things and the not so fun things, to be prepared and to learn and to listen. But at the same time, everything, my biggest reason for sharing is because I want other moms to enjoy it. I hate it when I hear pregnant people or moms that have been pregnant and now, you know, look back and go, oh, I hated my pregnancy, it was horrible, and this and that. I cringe inside. I'm like, oh, it's such a special time. You shouldn't hate it. You know, of course there's gonna be moments where you're gonna be like, please, I don't want to be pregnant anymore, or oh, I can't handle this, or I don't want to do it anymore. But the majority of it should be enjoyable. You should be able to be telling everybody around you how amazing your journey was, and that is what I want for you guys. So if you guys are watching my channel and you're pregnant, that is what I'm hoping for. I have to say, so far, I think I've succeeded in a lot of you, because I've had tons of comments and messages from y'all telling me how you were so afraid and you had all these things going on and you were nervous and you were scared, or you were feeling a certain way, and you've watched my videos and now you don't feel that way anymore. You feel more excited, you're enjoying the moments, or you felt like you were heard because you felt like you weren't the only one anymore. So I love it. I love those kinds of messages and those comments. They make me feel so, so good when I see those and when I hear from you guys, because that is exactly the reason why this channel exists right now. And especially going through pregnancy myself, that is exactly the reason why I wanted to share it, because I want you guys to love it and to be able to look back 40, 50 years from now and think, man, these kids are crazy, but that pregnancy was so good and I miss it. I loved it. It was amazing. It was the best journey ever. Okay, I think that about sums up most of the stuff that I wanted to share, that I feel like, you know, were just different things that maybe, well, you probably, nobody knew about me unless you're my friend watching or a family member. So let's go ahead and jump right into the questions that you guys sent me. Okay, first question is, transitioning to becoming a mom, what changed mentally? I'd say the biggest thing that changes mentally, in that period of life that I was living in, I was 25 years old. I felt really, really good in my own skin at that moment. I felt really good, which is crazy because my whole life I've always been insecure and I've not really been the happiest person when it came to that. And I think it has a lot to do with the person that you're with, because my husband always made me feel so special and so beautiful, and my mind really started to change because he would tell me these things constantly and I started believing him. So I felt really good at this moment, and it was weird because I went from that to having my baby, and now I started second guessing things and more worried about what other people thought of me as a mother and how I was with my child, or how I looked, or all of those things, trying to live off of the stigmas that mothers get after having your baby. For example, the biggest one being, you know, you have to snap back and your body should look great, all the way to worried about, you know, if I was breastfeeding or if I was doing formula, because I tried breastfeeding so hard. And number one, because I wanted to, but number two, because I really felt like if I didn't, I would have hate from other people. And that's a horrible way to think. And that is a horrible way to start motherhood. A horrible way. You do not want to be putting yourself down for choices that you're making, and you don't want to be making choices off of what you think is popular or what you think other people want you to do. And that is what I was doing, and I don't recommend that for anybody. Another reason why I make these videos, because I want especially you first-time mamas to know that all these things are normal and it's okay, and these feelings and these thoughts are going to happen, and people are going to shame you, and people are going to judge you, and people are going to put things on you that you should be. And if you don't want to do those things, you don't got to do them. And it's okay. For me, that's not how I was. And so what changed mentally the most for me was just letting other people decide for me. And other than that, it was just my mind was constantly on my baby. I didn't think of anything else. I didn't think of the house. I didn't think of myself. I didn't even think of my husband. I didn't think of anything but that baby. Okay, next question is, did I work after having my first baby? And if so, did I struggle with leaving him? Yes, I did work after having my first baby. And I remember getting my hair done one day, and I was always changing my hair colors up and having fun with that. And my hairstylist asked me, why don't you just do hair? That, you know, that would be something fun. And I was like, I don't know, I didn't think about that. So I went to hair school. I absolutely loved it. I got a job at my mom's friend's salon, and I worked under her for about a year. And then after that, I started taking on my own clients. I moved into my own salon. I didn't own the salon, I just owned my own space, like my own chair, a chair rental. So you can become your own entity. And I've done that ever since. I've moved, you know, salons here and there, but I've done that ever since. And I absolutely loved it. I made more money that way than I did, you know, working for a salon where they took half my paycheck. I was doing that, which the great thing is that you can make your own hours. The hardest part is that even though you make your own hours, you are the secretary. You buy all the product, you do all the inventory, you do all the work and all the shampooing and all the cleaning up and all the phone calls and all the text messages. And people would, my phone was never off. I didn't have like a 9 to 5. It was a 24-hour gig all the time. But I love doing hair. I was really good at color, so other hairstylists would send me their clients for certain hair colors because they knew I could really do it. And I loved doing, you know, the bright colors. I did a lot of blondes and I loved my job. And with my son, when he was a baby, I would bring him to work with me sometimes, especially when he was little and he could sit in his car seat or in a little carrier. I could sit him in there, I could feed him a bottle in between clients, and then he would just snooze half the time, or if he was awake, everybody always wanted to hold him or something. It was great. So with my first one, it wasn't super hard, except for that I had double jobs at work. I would be doing work, but then I would also be taking care of my son. Now as he got older, it got harder, and so then I had to start asking people for help. So that was hard. But when it comes to having my first job and having a baby, I would say it wasn't super hard to do both with just one kid. Now don't get me wrong, I was still overwhelmed and stressed out half the time, because just having a baby alone does that to you, and then you have to deal with work. And there were plenty of days where I didn't want to go to work because I was already tired from my baby keeping me up. But in the scheme of things, when I'm thinking of all the kids I've had and all the kids I've had while working, the first one with a job was the least hardest, if that makes sense. Now, when I finally got to the point where I needed to put him in daycare and not just leave him like with my mom or my sister, that was definitely hard, and I didn't think it was gonna be at all. I was like, I'm not that kind of parent, I'm not gonna cry or anything. Like, it's a relief to put him here because I need to be able to have the free time and not be worried. I know where he is, I know what they're doing, this will be great. And I remember, y'all, that first day I dropped him off and I got in my car and I cried. And I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe I cried. I didn't think I was gonna be like that at all. And I think it wasn't the fact that he was leaving me, it was the fact that I felt like he was growing up. Like, I looked at daycare as school, and it's like when they go to school, that means they're older, they're growing up. Not that they don't need us, I don't know if that makes sense, but it was definitely hard leaving him. Now, I'm definitely not that kind of parent where I had an issue every single time, or I didn't want him to be with anybody. I wanted him to be there. I missed him for sure, but I felt comfortable with him there. So I definitely will say that first time was actually harder than I thought it was gonna be. But after, I mean, he could have cared less. He did not care that I was leaving him somewhere. He was excited. And after that, I was fine. Probably that first week was a little hard for me, but after that I was fine. So this question was, before I was a full-time mom, what did I do, or what work did I do before? So that obviously answers your question. I was a cosmetologist. I did a lot of creative color. That was like the biggest thing that I did. I had tons of clients that wanted all those different colors and patterns. So I was definitely more into coloring than hair cutting, but I did both. And I did boys' hair and men's hair and all of that. I will say that I've done them all. You know, I've been a mom and full-time working. I've been a mom and part-time working. I've been a stay-at-home mom. I've been a full-time stay-at-home mom, and literally all of them are equally as hard, because I always hate that debate where people are like, moms don't do anything, like what's your job? And it's like, no, being a mom is a job. Being a mom is very, very hard work. It's 24/7. And I feel like everybody that's gone through this pandemic, well, literally everybody, COVID, that have had kids, hopefully has realized now that that is a horrible thing to say to another mom. Oh, you just stay at home with your kids. It's not that easy. It's very hard. And then if you have to work on top of that, it's definitely hard. So I don't ever say anything to any mom that if you work and you have kids, that's hard too. But don't disregard us mamas that just have kids and we don't work, because that's still hard. It's all hard, no matter what it is. I don't care what you do. Even when you work from home and you have kids, that is hard work. Okay, so the next question is, how do I make time for each kid? That is a hard one, because it is very hard to make time for each kid, especially now that I have 4 kids. When I only had 2, we would like swap off. Like when my husband was home, I would take one of them, we'd go to the movies, or we'd take the other one and go to the park. It was easier to do that. It wasn't time for each kid consistently every day, but I would try to find little times here and there. So if one was taking a nap, then I had time with the other one. Now, when it came to 3 kids, I felt like my older 2 were a little bit more neglected, because my daughter, she was a baby, she needed me the most. So when you have like a newborn or a baby that needs you consistently all day long, and you have other kids, it's very hard, and you have mom guilt all the time, because I always felt like I could be doing more with them, or I need to put more time, effort into that, but then you're so exhausted. And now that I have 4, it's definitely like that, because 3 and 4 are the closest in age. They're only a year and a half apart. So they both need me equally, consistently, all day long. So my time is with them 24/7 pretty much. And then my older two, my oldest is very self-sufficient, so he could really care less. He has his own thing. He likes being by himself. He likes doing his own thing and his friends. It's my middle child, my second child, that he's very needy and he loves to have attention, especially from mommy. Lately, I have been trying to make it more intentional and actually plan something with him. So I don't really get the time every single day with him. If we're lucky, maybe I find a minute to spend with him. Well, I started doing like mom and son dates. So I would take him out. I just did it recently with him. We got to go to the movies. I let him pick out the movie and we played games while we were there. And then my other boy, I'll do the same thing with him and let him pick out something, whether we go bowling or we just go to the park, we go for a walk. Maybe they just want to go to Target with me, whatever it is. At least they get a little bit of time with me. And then I already spend that time with my daughter. When my baby is sleeping, then I have time with Jade. And we play with her toys, or we go outside and we do sensory play and that kind of stuff. But I will say, even if it's something small, I've noticed my kids love it. So if I just ask my son to help me cook dinner, or if I'm gonna make a cake or brownies or something, I'm like, hey, you wanna help me? They love that. I choose that to be one-on-one time too. So it's definitely really hard, and you will always have mom guilt. I feel like no matter what you do, you will always feel like it's never enough. And you're always gonna be worried or wondering, do they know how much I love them? Do they know that they're special too, and not just this one? I know all my time spent here. I just took my older two boys together with me. We went overnight fishing in Galveston, which is the coast closest to us here in Houston, and I love to fish. And I took both of the boys together. We go overnight, we fish all night long. We slept a couple hours in the car, and then in the morning we went to the beach. And on the way home, I told them, I said, I hope you guys had so much fun with mommy. I loved having time with you. And I know that mommy is always dealing with your two younger siblings, with Jade and Knox, and you guys don't get to see me as much, but I promise I love you guys too. And I want to do these kinds of things with you more so that we can have time together and mommy can be with you too. And they loved it. They're like, this was the best day ever. Trying to do those things that makes me happy, but throughout the day, the day-to-day grind and things that you have to do, there are going to be times where you just feel horrible. And I definitely have those where the day will end and I'll be like, man, I should have spent more time with Abel, or gosh, I really didn't even see Georgie today. He was doing his own thing all day and I feel like I need to spend more time with him. So you will always have that, but it's just a hard juggle, and I don't think there's an easy way to make it work. I think it's just every day trying to find those little moments. And then this next one is, would I ever do a meetup in Houston? I think I would. I would totally do that. I don't think that I could now. I don't think I have enough people that would even want to do that. I'm super flattered that you asked, because that definitely makes me feel good. But I think definitely in the future, I think that would be something really, really cool to meet up with all of you guys that have followed along on this journey with me. I've listened to y'all's pregnancy and motherhood stuff too. I think that would be really cool to put a face to the name and be able to talk to y'all in person. That would be really fun. Maybe we could plan something in the next couple of years after my baby is such a little baby, because that would be hard with all of that. And of course, with this pandemic and everything, hopefully next year it won't be as crazy, and the restrictions and everything else won't be so bad. I'm hoping and praying for that. So maybe one day I will. What sleep training tips do I have? Okay. I am not an expert in sleeping for babies or for toddlers or for any age for that matter. I really just go with the flow and try to figure it out, and I do my own research. I will say that every kid, they go through all their little ups and downs. So you'll have your baby sleeping great, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, they're not sleeping, what happened? And it's just the age that they're in, and then they'll go back to sleeping again, and then it'll stop, and then it'll go back to sleeping, and they stop. And they do that a lot. I mean, probably until they're like 7 or 8. If you are going through that, I wouldn't, put too much pressure on yourself. The only thing I can say that definitely works is consistency. So if you have a consistent bedtime routine or consistent nap routine, I've noticed for sure that definitely helps. A house with 4 kids, I'm not always consistent. And I do notice that if I drop off for a couple days, then my kids don't sleep as well. And that's partially, mainly my fault, really. Before she goes to bed, she gets her blankie, she gets her bottle with some milk in it, and I pick her up. She says, night night. I turn her sound music on, her little sound machine. I turn the lights off. I lay her in the bed. I tuck her in. I say goodnight, and I close the door. And then at nighttime, she goes around, we say, give everybody kisses, say night-night. And so she goes around, everybody says goodnight, and pretty much the same steps happen. The only difference is that she has a nightlight. So she can turn her nightlight on herself, and then she will go get in the bed, and it just stays consistent like that. So with her, I've noticed once I started doing that, I mean, even if she didn't seem sleepy, she would lay down anyways, and I could close the door and there was no fuss. Now, when it comes to like a newborn and a baby, for one, your baby's not gonna have any kind of sleep schedule until they're 3 months old, so don't even try it. I mean, I've heard some people say that they have, and that's great, but those first 3 months, you're trying to just figure it out yourself in your own body, and you're exhausted, and then trying to like keep this schedule with a baby that's just never gonna have a schedule because every day is different with how many hours they go in between feedings and sleeping, and how long did they sleep for, and then that could mess up your nighttime routine because they slept more times during the day. You're like, you never know. So other than those things that you can do where it's turning the lights off, you know, making sure you're putting the sound machine on. Do they take a binky first, or do they take a bath first? Maybe that helps them. Then you do that every time before they go to sleep. When they start realizing that's the schedule, then their bodies get used to that and they know, okay, now it's sleep time. So if you can do that and get consistent, it will probably help. But it's not gonna stay perfect forever. Your baby's still gonna go through sleep regression stages. Try to do your research and see what you find out, and then try it out. Now, when I say try it out, you got to try it out for like a week at least, a week or maybe 2 weeks, to see if it really works, because your kid has to get used to whatever that is that you're trying. You know, doing it one time and seeing if it works is not going to help. Same thing, you know, with babies, when you get them like a swing or a bassinet or a bouncer or a rocker, whatever, and you think you put them in there for that first time and they don't like it and they cry, it doesn't mean that they don't like it. They just have never been in it before. So once you keep them in that every day, they get used to it, and then you can tell whether or not it works. One of the questions was a mama that has a 6-month-old, or she has a 5-month-old, I'm sorry. She's asking how I got my 6-month-old to sleep through the night. And this may look different for everybody because I co-sleep. So I co-sleep with my youngest son. He always sleeps with me. Now, I can totally put him in the bed and then get him to sleep and then leave the room if I'm not ready to go to sleep yet. What I would do is, you know, turn the lights off. I would, you know, change his clothes, change his diaper. I would get him a bottle, even though I do breastfeed him throughout the night. But at night, the minute I was going to put him down, I always gave him a bottle because I always felt like it was easier. It's a lot harder to get them to fall asleep and then like sneak away. So if I knew I needed to do things while he's asleep, I'd give him that bottle. You know, I'd turn his sound machine on. I would turn the lights off and I would set him up. I put him in a sleep sack, and when he was younger, I would swaddle him and get him all ready, and then I would feed him that bottle. There were times that I would feed him on me for a little bit to like get him to really calm down, because that's when he's gets the calmest, is when I feed him on me. And then before he got full, then I would give him a bottle to finish him off. I will say the fuller the tummy, the easier it is to get them to fall asleep and the longer they will sleep. If their tummies aren't full, they're gonna be waking up constantly because they're going to be hungry all the time. If you don't mind co-sleeping, sometimes that may be the best for you and your baby or your toddler. Maybe they need to have you there for a little while, and that doesn't mean that you have to have them in your bed for the rest of their life. It just means that in this stage that you're in, that comfort that they get from you, they might just need that for a little while, and then you can start transitioning them from that to their room again by, you know, maybe doing more nap times in their room, or making sure that you lay with them for a little while and then you go to their room and you sit there and feed them a bottle and rock them in their room and then lay them down. You know, there's a lot of different ways that you can do that. But if you do not want to co-sleep with your baby and you want them to be in their crib, just make sure that if you're whatever you're doing at night, your routine needs to be in that space that they're sleeping in. So if you know that they're sleeping in their crib, then change their diaper in there, do all of the stuff, turn the lights off and turn the machine on while baby's with you. Don't do all that first and then walk in the room, in a dark room, and then be like, okay, here, go to night-night. Like, hold them while you're doing all of that, rock them, give them the bottle, lay them down. But just make sure you're doing all of that in the room. And then I've heard a lot of people say that if your baby does wake up at night and, you know, needs to eat or something, don't turn the lights on, don't talk to them, don't do all that. Just pick them up, start feeding them, and then lay them back down. You know, don't do too much, don't talk too much, don't like totally undress them, don't turn the lights on, you know, all of that kind of stuff, because it really helps them just go right back to sleep after they get their tummies full. But yeah, I hope that helps. I'm not, like I said, I'm not the best expert at sleep tips. Definitely go to an expert for that. I can only give you tips that I've tried. So this next one says, were you overwhelmed and scared during your first pregnancy? No, not really. Mainly because I am a very go with the flow kind of girl. I've always been that way. I didn't really read up a whole lot about pregnancy other than what my mom would suggest or a couple people would say, which again, most of the people that I was around had never been pregnant. And I kind of just went with the flow. I listened to my doctor. I did whatever my doctor told me to do or not to do. And then I would just listen to my body and how I felt. But that was really it. I really didn't think too much into it. And I think that's why I wasn't really like scared or nervous about it, because I didn't really overthink it. I just kind of went through each day. Now, when I got closer to having the baby, I started getting a little scared and worried because I started thinking more about the whole process. And oh my gosh, it's coming to an end. And now I'm visualizing what has to happen for this baby to come out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I never even thought, I don't want to do it, but I can't go back now. Like, I'm like this big. Really, that happened because I had so many friends asking me that. Are you scared to have the baby? Are you scared of labor? Are you scared of delivery? And I was like, what? I don't know. And the more I would think about it, I was like, well, I guess I am. I don't want to do that. So I remember in those moments being like, okay, don't even think about it. I'm not even going to think about it. Everything's going to be fine. The baby has to come out. This has been going on for years and years. I'm going to be fine. Everything's going to be fine. And that's just kind of how I went. And really, it was great. And I don't know if that's why my labor and delivery with my first was so awesome, because I didn't feel any pain. I was happy. Everything was great. I mean, literally the best kind of labor and delivery you could have, I had with my first. Even all the nurses and doctors that were there were like, this is not normal. Like, this does not happen. You know, this is crazy, which was totally false advertisement for me, because then with the second one, I'm thinking the same thing, and that is not how it went. So with the first, everything was just so great. And I do think a lot of it has to do with going with the flow and your mind being open to anything and okay with everything and not overthinking things. So I definitely recommend that for you. But I mean, obviously you want to be prepared, you know. I think I could have been more prepared for a lot of things. I should have done a little more research with my first that I didn't do. But at the same time, I was also just like, well, whatever happens, happens. The next part of that question is, how have your postpartum experiences been? So those are a totally different story. I've had postpartum depression twice, with my first and my third. My second and my fourth, I have not had postpartum depression. I do have a video on postpartum depression. So, and my experiences, if you want to watch that one, I will definitely leave it right here in the cards for you, and also down in the description box if you want to watch it. Definitely goes more into depth on what I was feeling and how it was going, all of those things. And this one asked, what is your zodiac sign? I am a Pisces. I was born March 12th of 1987. So I'm a Pisces. I don't know much about astrology other than I'm a Pisces. That's about it. I have no idea what that means. I don't know anything about it, but I was told that so many times by other people. I've heard them say it, and so I know that that's what I am. Okay, this one asked, what are 3 tips you'd give to get through baby's first year? Number 1, don't be afraid of help. Number 2, go with the flow and don't be so hard on yourself. And number 3 is make time for you. You come first, then baby. I know we always say baby comes first, but if you don't feel good, you can't take care of your baby. If you're not healthy, baby's not gonna be doing so good either. So you first, then baby. Okay, so this one says, how much harder is it going from 3 to 4 kitties? 3 to 4 has been hard, but I think it's because my kids are so close in age. My first 2 were 2.5 years apart. I felt like that was like the easiest for me, was to take care of those 2. I had already had one, so I had learned how to have a child and what to do and what to expect. And the 2.5 years apart wasn't really a big deal. I was able to do everything. 2 to 3 was a shock, just because I was doing it all over again. And I felt like it had been a while, because my second and third one, they are 3.5 years apart. So there was quite a stretch there that I wasn't pregnant or didn't have a baby. So it took me a while to like catch back on to that. And then my second is definitely very like clingy to me. He loves mommy. He wants to be with mommy all the time. So I was dealing with that too. That was a little hard, but 3 to 4 has definitely been the hardest. But I really feel like it's because they're only 1.5 years apart. So I'm really taking care of 2 babies at once instead of just a baby and a older child. It's just a lot of people to take care of and a lot of things to keep track in my mind and a lot of people to please. And especially with the 2 youngest being so close in age, I feel like I'm only about them 24/7 and the other 2 get neglected way more. So there's mom guilt in that. It's a lot. Like it's just, whew. It's a lot harder than I thought it was gonna be, to be honest. I really thought like, what's one more? I've already got 3 and I've been doing this just fine. I feel like 4 will be easier. I said that to my husband and he was like, I don't know why you would ever think adding a child is easier, but okay. So he's definitely right on that one. I was wrong. It is a lot harder, but I don't want to say that to scare people, because I've heard of other families that have had 4 kids and they said the 4th was the easiest, that was the best. So I definitely think it has to do with how much age difference there is between your children. If they're super close together, just bam, 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 I think that would be really hard. If they're further apart, it'd probably be easier because you can spend more time with just that youngest baby. The older one or the older ones are able to be more self-sufficient and they don't need you as much and they don't really care if you're, right there with them, helping them. So I think that really depends. Okay, so this mama asked, what is the one thing that I learned when I was a first-time mom that surprised me the most? All right, we got Boo Boo. He's back. He's being loud, but hopefully he won't be so loud. So one thing that surprised me the most was that motherhood does not come easy. And I thought that it was just like, I'm gonna pop this baby out and then I'm gonna know what it's like to be a mom and I'm gonna know everything that moms know. And I'm gonna, that motherhood, mama bear kind of thing. I'm gonna know all the instincts and I'm gonna, just all of that. And that was not true. Breastfeeding I thought would just happen because you have a baby and then your body just knows. No, that was not true either. Breastfeeding was very hard, especially with my first. It did not go well. Really just everything. I was so surprised how hard it was to be a mom. And not your day-to-day, just like, trying to keep up with sleep. It was all the decisions and all the things that I thought would just be instincts for me and just came a lot harder. And like, what toys do we play with at this age and what does he need right at this second? And I remember going to the pediatrician and they ask you all these questions when they're young, well, does he do this yet? Does he do that? Does he do this? And I'd be like, what? I'm supposed to know all of these things? Well, how many ounces is he eating and how many this and how many times a day and how long between this? And I was like, holy moly. I was overwhelmed. I was very surprised that all of that was a lot harder than I really expected. The other thing I was surprised about was how much easier it was for me to keep living my life and doing my normal day-to-day things with a baby. I always heard people say, well, just wait, when you have that baby, your life's gonna change and you're not gonna be able to do that and you're not gonna be able to do this and you can't do this anymore. And I did all of those things with my baby, so I proved them wrong. But just your normal things, people would always bring up, oh, it's so hard to go to the grocery store with your baby. Oh, you can't go out to dinner with them because they're gonna cry. Or, you can't do this anymore. You can't go out with your friends anymore and go to the bar or go see them. I did all of those things, y'all. Obviously, I didn't bring my baby to a bar. But, I didn't let me being a mom mean that now I become somebody that sits at home all day and does absolutely nothing. That I can't go anywhere because I'd have to bring my baby along and they cry and they scream, or I have to feed them, or I would go to the mall with him. I'd bring him with me to go shopping. We would go to the drive-in movie all the time. I did all this stuff by myself because my husband at the time worked offshore or in another country. So for 8 months out of the year, I was by myself. And so I had to do everything with just my baby. I mean, I remember going to restaurants with him in the car seat, going out with friends to the restaurant to eat. And the waitress at the end would be like, is there a baby in there? And I was like, yeah. oh my gosh, he's been so good. I haven't heard a peep from him, you know? And I was like, yep, I take him everywhere with me. I would go to the barn to ride horses and I'd bring him with me. I would go, like I said, we'd go to the drive-in movie. I'd want to go to the drive-in movie and I'd have my little baby like this, just sitting in the back of the truck watching the drive-in movie theater. Just all of those things. So I was surprised that what they had told me was not true. And that I was able to keep doing all of those things and I didn't really have to sacrifice as much. Now obviously you sacrifice because you have a baby to take care of. You can't just be like free by yourself doing whatever you want. But like I said, it didn't mean that I couldn't go shopping anymore. I couldn't go to the store, you know, I couldn't do things that I had done before. I just had to do them differently because I had my baby with me. So those two things I definitely was surprised about with my first. Okay, so this one says, how did you handle all the stress of this last year while being a mom of 3 and going through pregnancy and birth? To be honest, y'all, it was hard. The beginning of this past year of 2020, the morning sickness was really, really bad for me with him. So that was very hard. Most of the year was totally fine. It was when the kids were supposed to go back to school and I was about to have him and I expected them to go to school and then I would have a newborn baby and a toddler and I could deal with that, but I wasn't gonna be able to deal with all of them homeschooling or at home learning. And when that didn't happen and they ended up having to stay home, that was the most stressful and the hardest time for sure. And I was overwhelmed and I was not prepared because I was expecting something totally different. That was definitely the hardest, and the only way I got through it was because of my husband, and my mom lived down the street, so that helped a lot because she would always come and take them for a couple hours a day, you know, switch different kids different days or anything like that really. But I will tell y'all, that's probably the hardest time I've ever had. I was just trying to keep up. Like I just wanted to keep up and I just couldn't keep up. And then they would ask me a question, I would lose it. I'd be like, oh my God, I can't do this. Everybody wants everything at once and I can't take it anymore. So it was definitely the hardest time as a mom I've ever had, going through COVID or the pandemic and the lockdown and all of that was definitely the hardest. Now pregnancy wise, it wasn't hard on my body. It was just mentally that it was very, very hard. Okay, so the second part to that question was, has it changed the way you approached motherhood? Yes, for sure. It definitely changed everything. That is really when I started learning more about the sensory play, the Montessori style of things, and trying to find something to help me with the chaos, pretty much. Every day I was trying to keep up. Every day I was trying to make my life simpler. I was just so stressed and overwhelmed about everything. So one of the biggest things that has changed is the days that I decide we're gonna do absolutely nothing today, I don't feel guilty about anymore. I just take those days and we just relax and we can be slobs if we want, all of us, you know, not change our clothes. I don't change my kids' clothes. I let them just chill. We all chill together. We just go outside and get dirty and whatever. Another thing is I've been learning trying to get more activities for the kids to do, which can be stressful, but at the same time, rather than just being stuck inside and doing absolutely nothing. For example, the sensory play is really fun and the kids seem to love that a lot, you know, and now that it's getting warmer, I've already been looking into all the fun things that we can do outside with them. But even like just slowing down in general, I think it's definitely something I've learned and I'm doing differently. And then she also asked, what camera equipment do I use to make my videos? I used to use just my phone to make my videos, and then once I started really getting into it and loving it, my husband noticed like how much I was doing the videos and just learning the whole process and having fun with it. He surprised me and he bought me my first real vlogging camera, and it is a Canon G7X and I love it. He did a lot of research and, you know, tried to find the best one to try out, especially the first one. You know, it's not like the best, the top of the line kind of thing, but the best one for what I wanted it to do. You know, compact, and I love it. I absolutely love it. And then I have a ring light and a tripod. I have one of those handheld tripods that we've gotten a couple of different ones to try them out. And then my husband already had like a gaming computer, and that is what I use to like to edit my videos, I use the Movavi video software on our computer. And then he has like their gaming headphones with a microphone on it, so that makes it easier for me if I ever have to do like a voiceover on a video or something like that, then I can just use those headphones. Next question. What do you do to help balance being a mom and being a wife? So the second part of that question is, how do you find time for hubby without feeling like that's taking time away from baby? Okay, mamas. Number one, if your baby is under the age of 6 months old, you are not going to be able to find time for your husband. And if you do, take advantage. Hopefully your husband understands that their child at this moment in the stage that they're in needs mama the most. You're just going to be stretching yourself thin. And I would hope that your partner understands that. And if they don't, you know, just express that to them. Just say, look, I love you and I would love to spend more time with you, but I'm doing my best and I'm exhausted, and I would hope that they understand. You sit next to each other on the couch holding hands while you're feeding the baby, or you know, who knows, something like that. Anything, smallest things are still good things. You don't have to have this extravagant time together and go out to dinner, buy each other gifts. It's not that kind of time. Just know that, and if your baby is 6 months or younger, you're not going to be able to find time for your husband, and it's going to be very hard. Just do what you can. Now, if they're 6 months or older, that is when I would try to make my husband more of a priority, because yes, your baby needs you, but at the same time, so does your husband, and even you. We still need that connection with our partner. You don't want to lose that connection just because you have a baby. It definitely helps connect y'all in a different way with the baby, but you still need to have that time together, and he definitely needs to know that, you know, he's still a priority too. Definitely you need to be more intentional, whether it's we're gonna plan a date night. It could be today's Wednesday and I look at my husband and go, hey, tonight I need time with you. Like, put the kids to bed early. So even if the baby just hasn't even gone to sleep yet, but you know, obviously you have them laying somewhere so that you can sit with your hubby, cuddle up with them on the couch. You're watching a show, you're watching a movie, or you say, hey, can we go for a walk together and talk? Whatever it is, but you do have to find that time. And it doesn't mean that you're neglecting your child by any means, but your baby is also going to benefit from not being next to you 24/7. So you're not taking away anything from your baby. If anything, you are helping your child be more independent and not needing you for every single thing. So if your baby is still little, like my 6-month-old is, giving him time away from me is going to be good for him, and it's going to be good for me. So next question is, was there a difference in a boy pregnancy and a girl pregnancy for you? Yes, definitely a difference. So I have 3 boys, 1 girl. Most of my boy pregnancies were pretty much the same. You know, minor things here and there that were different, but with my daughter, I will tell you guys that I was way more hormonal. My emotions were up and down like crazy. I mean, one minute I would be crying my eyes out for no reason, and the next minute I would be laughing. One minute I would feel super depressed, and the next minute I would be like excited and full of energy. It was literally the craziest thing. And you go through that no matter what when you're pregnant, but on another level when I was pregnant with my daughter. And I can only think of it as, I'm a girl, I was having a girl, so my body had to make like all those extra hormones for my daughter as she was growing. So that just made me have more hormones, if that makes sense. I don't know, because obviously boys need different types of hormones than girls. So I was just getting like double treatments of what I normally have. Ooh, it was crazy. It was definitely a roller coaster emotionally and mentally while I was pregnant with her, for sure. But other than that, I really don't think there was any other difference. Okay, so the last question is, what symptoms did you experience during pregnancy and how did you handle them? This mama says she has insomnia. She's very itchy in her abdomen from her growing belly. Any recommendations? Okay, so for number 1, if you are itchy in your tummy, it is because your tummy is growing and the skin is starting to stretch. If you itch it, it will give you more stretch marks than you were already getting if you were having any. So anytime you feel your skin is itchy, make sure that you put oils or creams on your tummy And instead of itching with your nails, itch with like your hand like this. So if this was my stomach, I would do this and like rub it, but with the cream. So make sure that you put the oil and the cream on your stomach first and really lather it up, and then go with your palm, I guess, and right there, and just rub it wherever it itches to help relieve the itch. But that way you're not using your nails to dig into the skin, and then you're also getting that moisturizer, and really when you're doing this and itching it, you're actually massaging it deeper into your skin, which is great. So always, anywhere that you feel itchy, and that is definitely a symptom of pregnancy. A lot of people will get itchy. I get itchy legs, and I actually, what I do when I get itchy legs is I take my hairbrush and I scratch it up along my legs, and then I put lotion on my legs, so that for one, I'm cleaning off the dead skin. But it helps relieve that itch, and then putting the lotion on really helps relieve it from the itchiness, if that makes sense. I don't even know if that's okay to do, y'all, but I totally do that. I don't recommend using that on your stomach though, or probably any other area of your body. But if you're itching, you definitely need to put more lotions and oils. If you're like, well, I've already put them on, put more on. Like, just keep on putting that oils and lotions on. I love bio oil. Mama Mio is my favorite tummy rub butter ever. They have a butter and an oil, and you can get unscented or scented. Mama Mio is definitely my absolute favorite for all of that stuff. They have this thing called Lucky Legs that really helps my legs and my body feel really good. It's like a cooling effect. I recommend all their products, and I've used every single one. I love them. So I definitely recommend that, but please put creams on and don't itch with your nails. Insomnia is definitely another part of pregnancy. With all of my babies, it was different, but majority of them were, boobs were sore. I felt hungry all the time. I was super tired all the time. Later on in pregnancy, I couldn't sleep. My back was always hurting. Morning sickness with 2 of my pregnancies, really, really bad morning sickness, to where I had to have medication for the morning sickness, but it was all day long. It wasn't just in the morning. My feet got larger. I got really, really bad varicose and spider veins all over my legs, and they got worse with each pregnancy. And my legs would always get super swollen and look huge. I never had swollen feet though. I only had swollen legs. I'd have to go back. I'm pretty sure it's in a video, one of my earlier videos, that I talked about my symptoms and stuff, because I did a video almost for every like trimester. I know I did a video for my first trimester talking about the baby blues and how I was depressed, and I was feeling all of these feelings, going through the morning sickness and feeling depressed in that first trimester with Knox. So if you want to watch that one, I definitely could share that one, go more in depth with that. That is all of y'all's questions. Thank you guys so much for sending in your questions and for watching this video and getting to know me more, getting to know me better. I love y'all so, so much. And if you guys love pregnancy, motherhood, homemaking, day in the life vlogs, any of that kind of stuff, definitely give this video a big thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe, because I would love to have you become a part of this Soul Tribe Mama family. And I will see you guys on my next one. Bye.